You think if she misses you, she'll say it. You think if it's real, it will be obvious. But the truth is, the strongest signs are usually the quiet ones, and weak men miss them because they're too busy begging for certainty. You're not confused because women are impossible to understand. You're confused because you're trying to read female psychology from the perspective of your pain instead of from the perspective of reality. And pain lies to you. Pain makes you stare at your phone and call that hope. Pain makes you replay old conversations and call that connection. Pain makes you mistake your need for insight. That's not insight, that's withdrawal. And before we go deeper, hear this clearly. If you're the kind of man who needs reminders that truth matters more than temporary comfort, subscribe now, because you do not need more soft lies, more fantasy, more cope. You need sharp reminders. You need your mind corrected before your emotions drag you back into weakness. Now, here's what it really means when she misses you, but won't admit it. It does not automatically mean she wants you back. It does not automatically mean she's ready. It does not automatically mean the story should restart. What it means is simpler, deeper, and more dangerous than that. It means your absence is speaking to her in a way your presence no longer could. It means the emotional imprint is alive. It means the space where you used to stand still has weight. And if you don't understand that properly, you will ruin your own position by rushing in and trying to cash out on a signal before it becomes substance. That is the first mistake men make. They think signs are outcomes. They think interest is commitment. They think missing you is the same as choosing you. It is not. A woman can miss your energy and still resist your return. She can feel your absence and still protect her pride. She can revisit the bond in private and still refuse to confess it out loud. Why? Because emotion and decision are not the same thing. Feeling and surrender are not the same thing. Longing and trust are not the same thing. You need to separate those if you want clarity. Because let's be honest, most men don't want truth. They want a guarantee. They want one text, one look, one late night message, one mutual friend update, one social media breadcrumb, and suddenly they want to believe the universe has approved their reunion. But your desperation does not change the meaning of the sign. It only corrupts your interpretation of it. So let's get into it. One secret sign she misses you, but won't admit it, is that she finds indirect ways to stay psychologically close without giving you direct access. She watches but doesn't reach. She hovers but doesn't land. She reacts but doesn't initiate clearly. Maybe she checks your stories quickly. Maybe she appears around your orbit through mutual spaces. Maybe she asks about you without wanting it traced back too obviously. Maybe she sends something small, casual, almost meaningless on the surface. That is not random. That's controlled contact. That's emotional temperature checking. That's her trying to feel your presence without risking full vulnerability. And weak men ruin this instantly. They see one breadcrumb and bring a truckload of emotion to the table. She peeks and he pours his heart out. She likes a story and he writes a paragraph. She says, "Hope you're doing well," and he acts like wedding vows have been renewed. That's called self-betrayal. You are taking a small signal and attaching your whole identity to it. You are turning one crack in the wall into a fantasy palace. Stop. Why does she do this indirect thing? Root cause. Because missing you is not the same as being ready to expose herself to rejection, disappointment, or loss of control. Female psychology is deeply tied to emotional safety, emotional calibration, and self-protection. If the bond mattered, then the absence matters. But if the ending hurt, if pride got involved, if trust cracked, if timing failed, then she is not going to come marching in with a public confession just because she had one lonely night and felt your absence. She will test the emotional climate first, quietly, carefully, indirectly. And if you don't understand that, it costs you. It costs you your edge. It costs you your frame. It costs you the ability to let the signal breathe. You chase too early. You explain too much. You hand over all your cards because your loneliness is louder than your discipline. And the moment you do that, you stop being the man she was quietly trying to reevaluate. You become the man who has no center without her response. That kills respect. Another sign she misses you, but won't admit it, is that her energy toward you becomes emotionally inconsistent. Not cold, not warm. Inconsistent. One moment, there's openness. The next moment, there's distance. One day she seems curious. The next day she disappears again. Men call this mixed signals. Sometimes it is. But very often, when the history is real, it is internal conflict. Part of her feels the pull, another part remembers the pain, part of her wants to move closer, another part does not want to feel exposed, part of her misses what you were, another part doubts whether you still are that man. Do you see the difference? You call it confusing because you want stable comfort, but from her side, it is emotional friction. She is not only responding to you, she is responding to the memory of you, the meaning of the breakup, the story she told herself afterward, and the fear of being wrong if she opens the door again. That friction creates inconsistency. Now, hear the hard truth. Her inconsistency is not your invitation to perform harder. It is your invitation to become steadier. You do not answer inconsistency with panic. You answer it with groundedness. You do not chase clarity by forcing conversation. You create clarity by refusing to become unstable in response to instability. That's the lesson. Because what do weak men do? They over-message. They over-explain. They over-analyze. They ask friends what she meant. They dissect punctuation like detectives. They become emotionally available on demand and emotionally destroyed on delay. You stop training, you stop building, you stop sleeping well, you stop focusing, you stop respecting your own time, you stop being a man with a mission and become a man in reaction. That is the cost, not just losing her, losing yourself. And let's go deeper still. A third sign she misses you but won't admit it is that she brings the past back to the surface in disguised forms. She references an old joke. She mentions a place you both knew. She comments on some version of the man you were when things felt alive. She may not say, "I miss us," but she revives emotional landmarks. Why? Because memory is safer than confession. Nostalgia lets her touch the feeling without fully naming the desire. That matters. But again, do not romanticize it. Nostalgia is evidence of emotional residue, not proof of relational readiness. She can miss the feeling and still not trust the future. She can miss who you were together and still question whether the present can hold it. That is why you must stay disciplined. You must stop treating emotional residue like a signed contract. You need to understand the deeper pattern here. Women often don't admit missing you when admission feels like surrendering leverage, exposing softness, or risking being the one who cared more. Pride is not just a male thing. Ego is not just a male thing. Self-protection is not just a male thing. If she still feels something, she may hide it specifically because it matters. Indifference is often obvious. Emotion is often guarded. Silence does not always mean emptiness. Sometimes silence means the emotion is still alive, but the person holding it does not yet know what to do with it. Now be careful here, because this is where delusional men get hurt. They hear that silence can mean something, and then they decide every silence means love. No. That's fantasy. Reality is more disciplined than that. Some silence means she's gone. Some silence means she's confused. Some silence means she misses you but still chooses distance. Your job is not to force the answer. Your job is to become the kind of man who does not need to twist uncertainty into a bedtime story just to survive the night. That's the real battlefield. Not her mind. Yours. You want to know why so many men collapse in this phase? Because they built their self-worth on access. If she texted, they felt alive. If she pulled back, they felt worthless. If she showed signs, they felt powerful. If she went quiet, they felt erased. That's not love. That's dependency dressed in romantic language. That's emotional outsourcing. And it will make you weak in every relationship you ever touch. You need a reframe. Her missing you is not your mission. Her choosing you is not your identity. Her confusion is not your emergency. Read that again in your mind. Her missing you is not your mission. Her choosing you is not your identity. Her confusion is not your emergency. Your mission is to remain solid enough that if the truth returns, it finds you stronger, not hungrier. More complete, not more desperate. Sharper, not more wounded. That is why the man who wins in these situations is rarely the loudest one. He is not the man posting fake abundance to trigger jealousy. He is not the man sending speeches at midnight. He is not the man pretending not to care while secretly checking her page 10 times an hour. He is not running theater. He is not negotiating for scraps. He is not begging the universe for one more sign. He is grounded. Picture that man clearly. He feels the loss, but he does not worship it. He remembers her, but he does not chase memory like a drug. He has boundaries. He has work to do. He has standards for how he is spoken to, how he is treated, how access to him is earned. His mornings belong to discipline, not drama. His body reflects order. His schedule reflects purpose. His emotions are real, but they are led, not unleashed. He can love deeply without collapsing. He can care without begging. He can stay open without becoming available for confusion. That's the man. And women feel that difference immediately. Why? Because groundedness changes the emotional temperature around you. It removes pressure. It removes neediness. It removes the stench of performance. Presence versus grasping. Strength versus spectacle. Reality versus fantasy. When a man is rooted in himself, he does not have to convince anyone of his value. He embodies it. That is what makes absence powerful in the first place, not games, not silence as a tactic, substance. If she misses you, what she misses most is not your chasing, not your pleading, not your over-explaining. She misses the emotional experience of your core, your steadiness, your direction, your certainty, your way of making her feel a masculine center she could relax around. And if that center is gone the second she pulls away, then what was she really missing? A performance? A mood? A role? No. The thing that lasts is character. So what do you do when you sense these signs? Simple. Hard, but simple. You do not rush to decode every move. You do not interrogate the signal. You do not turn soft evidence into hard conclusions. You do not send a flood of emotion because your ego wants immediate relief. You slow down. You observe patterns, not moments. You respond, but you do not pursue blindly. You stay warm, but not overeager. You stay open, but not unguarded. You let her actions carry weight, not just her mood, not just her words, her actions. And more importantly, you redirect energy back into your own life immediately. Train, work, build, read, fix your sleep, clean your environment, reconnect with your mission, strengthen your circle, handle your money, speak less, mean more. Stop orbiting her reality and return to your own, because the more your life depends on her signal, the less attractive your life becomes. Let me make this even clearer. If she misses you, you do not need to force her to admit it. If she's feeling the absence, time will either mature that emotion into action or expose it as passing nostalgia. Either result helps you. Why? Because truth is the goal, not temporary relief, not ego validation. Truth. And truth has a pace. That is what impatient men cannot stand. They would rather manufacture closure than tolerate uncertainty. They would rather send the long paragraph than sit with their own growth. They would rather get rejected cleanly than endure the discipline of becoming stronger without knowing the ending. But that impatience is expensive. It costs position. It costs dignity. It costs self-respect. Self-respect means you stop volunteering for emotional chaos. Self-respect means you stop auditioning for a role you already played. Self-respect means you stop trying to convince someone of your value while neglecting your own life. Self-respect means if a woman is conflicted, you do not become conflicted with her. You remain clear. That doesn't make you cold. It makes you clean. And understand this. The real victory is not getting her back. The real victory is becoming the kind of man who cannot be reduced by absence. Then, if she returns sincerely, she meets a better version of you. And if she does not, you have still won, because you did not abandon yourself in the process. That's the hidden gift of this whole experience. The pain exposes your leaks. It shows you where you are addicted to validation, where you still confuse longing with destiny, where you still believe being chosen is the same as being valuable. Good. See it. Face it. Fix it. That's growth. That's reclamation. That's a man rebuilding his center. So the next time you notice those subtle signs, the indirect check-in, the emotional inconsistency, the nostalgic resurfacing, don't smile like a starving man who just saw crumbs. Stand still, breathe, read the situation without reading yourself into it. Ask the only question that matters. If truth is moving here, am I strong enough not to interfere with it? Because sometimes the most powerful move is restraint. Sometimes the strongest message is calm. Sometimes the cleanest answer is no performance at all. Let absence do its work. Let reality reveal itself. Let your value be felt, not advertised. And if she does come closer, do not meet her as the old version of you. Do not meet her as the man who was waiting at the window. Meet her as the man who kept building, the man who learned, the man who no longer confuses emotional intensity with emotional alignment, the man who listens to actions, the man who protects his peace, the man who can say yes without losing himself and no without hating anyone. That is mature masculine energy, not domination, not manipulation, direction, restraint, integrity. The ability to remain whole while love, loss, and uncertainty pass through your life. That's power. So stop asking, does she miss me? And start asking, who am I while the answer is unclear? That question will save you, because if the answer is that you become obsessive, passive, distracted, reactive, and small, then your real work has nothing to do with her. It has to do with the man in the mirror. Fix him, strengthen him, lead him. Do not negotiate with weakness just because it sounds emotional. Do not confuse sensitivity with surrender. Feel what you feel, but do not kneel to it. The world does not need another man who can explain his wounds in perfect detail, but cannot govern his own mind. It needs men who can turn pain into structure. Men who can turn confusion into clarity. Men who can turn rejection into refinement. Be that man. When you stop chasing reassurance, you become reassuring. When you stop asking for permission to matter, you start moving like you matter. When you stop trying to be chosen, you become choosable at the highest level. Not because you performed harder, but because you finally stood on your own ground. And that is the reframe that changes everything. Her silence is not always rejection. Her missing you is not always reunion. Her signs are not your salvation. You are not here to decode yourself into desperation. You are here to use every sign, every silence, every ache as a callback to your own center. That center is where your power lives. That center is where your peace lives. That center is where your standards live. That center is where your future lives. You are not waiting to be completed. You are not waiting to be seen into existence. You are not waiting for one woman's confession to approve your worth. You are the answer. You are the stabilizing force. You are the standard you keep trying to find in someone else's response. Act like it, walk like it, decide like it. And if this hit you where it needed to hit you, subscribe, because you need more than motivation. You need truth that cuts through fog, truth that restores self-respect, truth that reminds you who you are when emotion tries to make you forget. Stay close to this kind of message and stay around men who are done lying to themselves.